Hi, this is Lakshmi. I'm a storyteller from Bengaluru, India, and I'm very glad to be taking part in Project Decamerone 2020. What is Decamerone and what is this project all about? Let me brief you a bit. In Europe, between the years 1347 and 1351, there occurred the deadliest pandemic recorded in human history called the Black Death caused it was a kind of a plague that was caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis. Now, Decamerone is a book. It is a fictional work by the 14th century Italian author Giovanni Boccaccio, who structured this book as a frame story with Black Death as the backdrop. The frame story is like this. In Italy, during the time of Black Death, a group of seven young women and three young men flee Florence and come to a deserted villa in the countryside of Fiesole and stay there for 2 weeks. To pass their evenings, each of them tell a story each night, except for a couple of days where they do nothing at all, which resulted in 10 nights of storytelling, having told 100 stories in total. Each of the 10 members is appointed as the king or the queen for one of the 10 days of storytelling in turn, and that king or queen gets to choose the theme of the stories for that particular day. Here at Project Decamerone 2020, we storytellers from around the world are contributing home videos of stories from this book, Decamerone, to cheer people up during the COVID-19 quarantine. And I'm very glad to be narrating two stories from this book. And here is one. In this video, I am going to narrate the second story of day 5. The queen of day 5 was Fiammetta, who chose the theme of the stories to be love stories. Specifically that where lovers pass through disasters before their love ends in good fortunes. And the narrator of the second story of the day was Emilia. The story goes thus. Near Sicily is an islet called Lipari. There lived a fair damsel by name Costanza, who was born in a well-to-do family. On the same island was a very young, a very agreeable, well-bred and highly skilled young man by name Martuccio Gomito. Now Costanza and Martuccio were in love with each other and they wanted to get married to each other. This made Martuccio approach Costanza's father, asking him to give his daughter to him in marriage. But Costanza's father refused the proposal, saying that Martuccio was poor and so he did not deserve his daughter to be his wife, and so sent him away. This enraged Martuccio, and our angry young man, along with some of his friends and relatives, equipped a light ship and swore never to return to Lipari except getting rich. Now, as he said, accordingly he departed and he turned a pirate. He, Martuccio, along with his companions, plundered all those who were weaker than himself, so much so that he did not know how to set bound to his wishes. And he and his comrades just desired to grow over rich only. But soon it so happened that when they were cruising off the coast of Barbary, where they were plundering a lot of people who were weaker than themselves, Martuccio and his men were also now plundered by certain ship of the Saracens. Now, during the Middle Ages, those people who were following the religion of Islam were called as Saracens. Now, these Saracens grabbed all they could from Martuccio's ship and they sacked the greater part of his crew and they captured Martuccio and carried him to Tunis, where he was put in prison and kept in misery for a long time. Now, the news was brought to Lipari by many divers that Martucho and his friends and companions who had gone with him on board that ship had drowned and they all had died. When this news fell on Costanza's ears, she was woebegone beyond measure. She did not want to live any more. She resolved that she did not want to live any longer. But still, she did not want to end her life sorting to some violent means. So she determined to give her a new occasion to her death. And so one night, secretly, she left her house and came to the harbor. There, she saw a fishing boat furnished with mast, sail, and oars. She hastily got into that boat and very skillfully rowed the boat herself, just like any other woman on that island who are very highly skilled at the mariner's art. Now, as she rowed some distance, she left herself to the mercy of the waves, to the mercy of the wind. She knew that the wind would overturn the boat somewhere or drive it up to some rock and break it open, and eventually she would drown and die. Thinking so, she wrapped her head in a shawl and just laid herself in the bottom of the boat, weeping and simply weeping. But it was to happen otherwise. The wind was very calm. The wind was very conducive. It was a northerly wind, and so it was very light and calm, and there was no sea nearby, too. So the boat rode it out in safety. And the following day, around evening, she was brought on a beach near a town called Susa, a good 100 miles beyond Tunis. As chance would have it, and in that evening came a poor woman on the beach to gather the nets of her fisherman master. There she saw the boat was full, striking full on land. At first, she was surprised to see that a boat striking full on land like this. I have never seen this. But then she thought, okay, maybe the fishermen on that boat must be asleep. But still, she thought she should check it once, and so she went to the boat to see. But there she saw lying at the bottom of that boat our damsel Costanza fast asleep. Costanza, who had laid herself there at the bottom of the boat, had never lifted her head at all on the way, and she never felt ashore. So this poor woman called out to her many times. And finally, when Costanza woke up, she suddenly stood on her feet, looked around, and not knowing where she was, asked the woman as to where she was. To that, the good woman said, "Dear girl, you are in Susa, in Barbary." Hearing this, Costanza was woeful. She thought, oh no, what is this? God is not in my favor. He does not want me to die. Oh no, what do I do? Where do I go? She just didn't know what to say, what to do. And she just dropped herself in the boat and just kept weeping very profusely. Now, this poor woman, good woman, she took pity on her, pity on Costanza, consoled her, and then took her to her little hut. And seeing that Costanza was starving, gave her dry bread, some fish, and water, and asked her to eat. After Costanza had eaten the food, she took up some courage and energy to ask the woman as to who she was. To which the woman replied that her name was Cara Pressa and that she was from Trapani and she was here at Susa serving a certain fisherman. Now, hearing the name Cara Pressa, Costanza suddenly felt a sudden gush of hope within her. She felt somehow it was a good omen hearing that name, and her wish to die became less intense. Then, after some time, she earnestly asked that good woman to take pity on her and help her out so that people around do not offend her considering that she was young. The good woman that she was told, "Dear Costanza, don't you fear. I will take you to the house of a very good Saracen lady. I serve her oftentimes. She is old and pitiful. I am very sure that she will receive you as her own daughter and she will take care of you. She'll be very glad to have you. Be there, be with her, serve her, gain her favor until God wishes to send you better fortunes, she said. And as she said, so she did. She took Costanza to that Saracen lady's house where there were several women without any man, and these women were doing various crafts of silk, palm fiber, and leather. Costanza, being among all these ladies, very soon learnt their craft and proved to be a very good team member among the other women and gained the favor of the Saracen landlady and all the other women alike. And she also learnt their language. Now, when Costanza was there at Susa doing very well and was happy, back at home in Lipari, she was being mourned for lost and dead. Now, in Tunis, remember Tunis where Martuccio was kept in prison? At that time, Tunis was ruled by a good king by name King Maria Abdella. At the same time, there was a young man in Granada, Spain, belonging to a great family and who held a very high influence. He had set his eyes on Tunis and vouched that that kingdom belonged to him and only him. And so, collecting a huge army, set out to wage war against King Maria Abdella to oust him out of his kingship. Now, this news came to Martuccio's ears, who was in prison, who by that time had excellently well learnt the Barbary language. Now, learning that King Maria Abdella was making great efforts for his defense, he called out to one of the keepers and told him, "Listen, can I have a word with the king? My heart assures me that if I give him a counsel, he will surely win this battle." The keeper acknowledged it and took this message to his chief. The chief then took the message to King Maria Abdella, who commanded that Martuccio be brought in front of him immediately. Now, in front of the king, Martuccio very politely and confidently said, "My lord, I have spent a lot of time in your control, and I have noted the order you keep in your battles. I have seen that you wage wars, you wage battles more with your archers than anything else. So I have an idea using which your archers will have an advantage over your enemies and you will surely win this battle." King Maria Abdallah said, "Of course, I want to win this battle and I'm sure we will win this battle. Now come on, tell me your plan. We will do it." Martuccio said, "My lord, you must allow your archers' bow strings to be made thinner than which are commonly made everywhere, commonly used everywhere. After that is done, you must let them make arrows in such a way that their notches should serve only on the bows with these thin strings. And all this should be made very secretly. The enemy should not know, otherwise they will find a remedy to it. Now the most important strategy is this, my lord. After the enemies have shot all their arrows and your archers have shot all theirs, you know that your enemies will gather the arrows shot by your archers and your archers will gather all the arrows shot by the enemies. But the enemies will not be able to use the arrows shot by your archers because their thick stringed bows will not hold the narrow notches of your archers. But the contrary will happen to your archers whose thin stringed bows will excellently hold the enemy's archers' wide notched arrows. This way, your men will have abundance of ammunition and you will win the battle." Now the king, very impressed, did whatever Martuccio said word to word and he won the battle. This made Martuccio gain high favor of the king, and he was soon given a great power in the kingdom. Now, this news about Martuccio spread over the land and eventually fell on Costanza's ears. What? Martuccio, whom long since I had deemed dead, is alive? All these days, her love for him had grown cool, but this news brought fresh flame in her and revived her hope. She immediately ran to that good old woman and told her that she wishes to go to Tunis so that she could satisfy her eyes that which her ears had heard. That old woman, empathizing with Costanza, took ship with her immediately and accompanied her as a mother would. Carapressa also had joined them. Once they reached Tunis, Carapressa was asked to go and learn whatever she could about Martuccio. And she, finding him alive and that too in great power, reported that to the old lady. The old good woman now thought that it was her responsibility to inform Martuccio that his Costanza had come there to see him, but she was not going to reveal that entirely. So one day she went to Martuccio herself and said, "Dear Martuccio, there has come a servant of yours from Lipari to my house who says wants to speak with you something in secret. Thinking that it might not be safe to trust others, I thought I should come and inform this to you," she said. Martuccio, listening to that, thanked her and went along with her to her house. There, Costanza, who was waiting for him, seeing him, ran with open arms, flung it around his neck and embraced him tight, and not knowing what to speak, just let her tears roll down her cheeks, both for their past ill fortunes and for the present gladness. Martuccio, too, seeing his love, was dumbstruck with amazement. "Oh, Costanza, you are alive? It was long since I heard that you were lost, my love," he said, and embraced her too tightly and kissed her tenderly. Then both of them narrated to each other what had happened to them once they departed from Lipari. Then Martuccio, without wasting any time, went to his king, King Mariabdella, his master, and told him everything, his own adventures and that too of Costanza's. And he added that he meant to take Costanza as his wife according to the law. The king, marveled at these things, sent for Costanza, and hearing from her the same words that which Martuccio had spoken, said, "Well, dear Costanza, then you have very well earned this young man, your husband," he said, and he gave both of them magnificent gifts and bid them farewell, blessing them all happiness and prosperity. Martuccio thanked the king very much and took leave from him. Then he went to that good old woman, the Saracen woman who had given Costanza shelter. He profusely thanked her and gave her such gifts that suited her quality. Then Martuccio, Costanza, along with Carapressa, took a small ship, a small boat, and returned to Lipari, where, when their people saw them back, they were so happy. There was so much rejoicing that can never be told. And Martuccio there took Costanza to his wife. As a wife, he held a grand wedding there. And they long lived in happiness and prosperity, in peace and in enjoyment of their loves. Thank you.